Chapter 1. Discharged. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. First Public Hospital, Westridge District. A boy stepped out of the hospital's front entrance. The boy was about 17 years old and was going to turn 18 soon. He was tall and lanky, and he had a delicate face. However, his tousled hair, wrinkled white button-down shirt, and faded jeans made him look old-fashioned and even poor. His shoes were worn out badly. One of them had a split heel. Standing at the front entrance, he inhaled deeply, feeling a little giddy. He lifted his head and squinted at the bright sunlight. It had been half a month since he first entered the hospital. That half a month felt like an entire lifetime. His name was Tang Hao, a resident of Tang Village in the Westridge district. Half a month ago, he had stood up for a random stranger on the streets. Unfortunately, he had been beaten to a pulp and even stabbed by the bad guys. He was sent to the hospital afterward. The most frustrating part was that the random stranger he had saved disappeared without a trace. The perpetrators were not caught either, so no one could testify that he had been a good Samaritan. The case was left cold, and he had to shoulder the expensive treatment fees. Tang Hao was not a rich person. He had lost his mother since he was small. His father had succumbed to a disease 7 years ago and did not leave him with an inheritance. After he dropped out of school in the past year, he had been performing odd jobs around the village. His savings of about 10,000 yuan were all spent on his treatment. This was very disheartening for Tang Hao. There was a silver lining to this unfortunate incident though. While he lay unconscious in hospital bed because of his serious injuries, he felt warmth from the jade pendant he had been wearing, and a wealth of information flooding into his brain. He had picked up this jade pendant from the ground on a lucky day, and he had been wearing it around his neck since. He digested the information after he woke up and realized that the knowledge he had gained was an ancient method of cultivation, among other long-lost domains of knowledge. Much like many people in this world, he was a firm believer in materialism. He did not believe in anything supernatural like ghosts or deities until this change happened to him. The newfound knowledge had opened a door to another realm for him and changed the way he looked at the world. He firmly believed that with this newfound method of cultivation and this knowledge can improve his life. Facing the bright sunlight, he was filled with determination, faith, and hope. However, he was brought back to reality in the next moment when his stomach rumbled loudly. He rubbed on his deflated stomach. "I'm starving, let's get some food," he grumbled. He searched his pockets and could only find a 10 yuan note and 3 1 yuan coins. "Is that all I have?" His eyebrows were tightly locked together. "Maybe I can skip a meal," he mumbled. He only had a few hundred yuan left in his debit card, and that would not last him very long. If his situation did not improve, he might starve to death. He pondered his options while pinching the 10 yuan note in his hand. The hunger was unbearable, and so he approached a nearby Xiaobing stall and inquired. "How about one Xiaobing, boss?" "Comin' right up." The stall owner was a middle-aged man. He glanced at Tang Hao, wrapped up a piece of Xiaobing and handed it to him. 3 yuan. Tang Hao was shocked. 3 yuan. Wasn't it 2.50? Heh. The price has gone up. These are tough times. The stall owner grumbled. Tang Hao grunted and handed him the 3 coins. He looked at the Xiaobing that was handed to him and sighed again. Inflation again. How am I going to survive? Gotta make some money and earn a living. He was a delivery boy before he was hospitalized. He wondered if someone took over his job in the half a month he laid in the hospital. After wolfing down the Xiaobing, he took out his phone from his pocket and gave Uncle Li a call. "Hey, it's Lil Tang. How's it going? You're out of the hospital," a booming voice was heard from the other end of the phone. "Yup. Good to hear. I've saved your spot for you. No rush, you've just discharged. Rest for a few more days before clocking into work. Uncle Lee said readily. Benove Calm Tang Hao felt a warm current in his heart and a lump in his throat. Uncle Lee was an enthusiastic and sincere man. He had always taken good care of the boy. I'm fine, I'm fine. I'll come to work tomorrow, Tang Hao said urgently. If you say so. All right, all right. See you tomorrow. After some more small talk, he hung up the call. He hopped on the bus, rode along a bumpy road and arrived at Tang Village. Westridge District was surrounded by mountains on both sides. Tang Village was on the eastern edge of Westridge District and neighbored a mountain. He alighted from the bus and reached home after another 10 minutes of walking. Lil Hao, you're back. A neighbor greeted him excitedly. Tang Hao waved and returned the greeting, then continued walking back home. The houses in this village were all built by the families living there. His house was a small 3-story building with a dilapidated facade. As he reached the front door of his house, a middle-aged man was seen emerging from the house next door while holding a rice bowl. Lil Hao, you're back, he greeted him. Tang Hao smiled and returned the greeting. Another shrill voice came from within that house. Oh, Lil Hao, you're back. Lying in the hospital for half a month must have cost a bomb. Look at you, fighting like a hooligan at such a young age. Shame on you. A middle-aged woman with broad shoulders and an equally broad waist emerged from the house next door while speaking. Her arms were akimbo as she cast a condescending eye on Tang Hao. I knew that you're always up to no good. Unlike my Bowen, he's so obedient and clever. He'll be entering university soon, and after he graduates, he'll be an outstanding government official. Unlike you, you're destined to remain like this for all your life. Her tone of voice was shrill, harsh and, unfortunately, very loud. She could be heard from afar. Some fellow villagers looked at them as she spoke. Tang Hao's complexion changed as he felt anger well up in his chest. This middle-aged woman was his aunt. He had always been on her bad side, and she had been treating him like this every time they met. What hooligan! I saved someone's life, he explained as he tried to suppress his anger. Ha! The middle-aged woman's lips tightened as she smiled wryly. You saved someone's life. Ha, what a joke. I didn't know that you're a shameless liar too. If you really did save someone's life, where's your silk pennant? Tang Hao gripped his fists tightly as the anger in his chest multiplied. The middle-aged woman was relentless. Who in this Tang village doesn't know that you're a hooligan? You were caught fighting in school and was expelled. I'm ashamed to have such a relative like you. I knew since you were young that you'll grow up to be like this, unlike my Bowen. He'll be a university graduate and an outstanding government official to bring honor to his ancestors. She looked jubilant as she mentioned her son. Tang Hao's fists were so tightly clenched that his knuckles turned white. He inhaled deeply, cast her an evil glare, then walked into the front door in big strides. Ha! I wonder where this little whelp learned how to glare at his elders. The shrill voice rang from outside. The mocking continued for a while longer before it ceased. Tang Hao whipped up a simple meal in the kitchen and went upstairs. The sky was darkening. He lay in bed as he watched the stars emerge in the night sky. His thoughts wandered, thinking long and hard about many things, and what he should do in his future. Drowsiness soon took over and he fell asleep. Chapter 2. Sis Xianyi, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Tang Hao woke up very early in the morning and went into town. How's it going, Lil Tang? Are you feeling okay? Uncle Lee came up to greet him passionately when he saw him. Uncle Lee's full name was Li Chang. He was a little over 50. His square face and glasses made him look like a scholar. He was a teacher many years ago, but when the delivery industry boomed, he quit his job and invested in a delivery business. I'm feeling great, thanks. Tang Hao said as he slapped his chest. Good to hear, you're still the same old, Uncle Lee said while pointing to a pile of packages next to him. Azure Sky Gardens is still yours. Tang Hao did a rough count and found that there were 60-odd packages, big and small. No problem. He nodded at Uncle Lee, then went over and shifted the packages onto his electric 3-wheeled motorcycle. When that was done, he hopped onto the vehicle and departed. It was the morning rush hour and the roads were congested. Car horns blared as the cars stopped and started. Tang Hao's little 3-wheeled motorcycle scuttled between the cars, traveling at full speed like a wild horse. In about 10 minutes, the 3-wheeled motorcycle stopped near a residential area. This was Azure Sky Gardens, one of the most affluent residential areas in the district. The people who lived here were all either very rich or well-connected. Tang Hao got off the motorcycle and scanned the packages with his eyes. This is instant hot pot. This one's junk food. With his experience and the information on the delivery slips, he could discern the contents of each package with just a quick look. This one's bedroom toys. Tang Hao giggled as he picked up a package. With the morals of society becoming more liberal, items like those were not a rare occurrence in his deliveries. He regained his composure and continued looking through the items. His eyes fell on an item hiding in a corner. Azure Sky Gardens, house number 9. Isn't that for Sis Xianyi? He recognized the address as he held the package in his hands. Sis Xianyi's surname was Qin. She was a prolific businesswoman in the district and owned a fashion factory. Everyone in the district knew who she was. She was an avid online shopper and had deliveries almost every other day. They were closely acquainted after frequent meetups. Other than Sis Xianyi, Tang Hao could also recognize most of the names of his customers in Azure Sky Gardens. She should still be at home at this hour. Tang Hao fished out his phone from his pocket and dialed a number. The call soon went through. A lazy and raspy voice was heard from the other end. Who's this? She yawned, seemingly having just woken up. Sis Xianyi, I have a delivery for you, Tang Hao said. Oh, it's Lil Tang. Alright, come on in. Tang Hao replied affirmatively. He headed over to the security post to identify himself, then rode onto his 3-wheeled motorcycle and entered the residential area. The terrace houses here were all built in the Western style and looked majestic, laid out in rows. He turned a few corners and arrived at house number 9. He rang the doorbell, and the door opened a long while later. An alluring scene appeared in front of Tang Hao's eyes. Standing in front of him was a tall and slender woman with perfect proportions. Her body was 9 heads tall, and all the curves were in the right places. A perfect S-shaped body. Her face was beautiful and flawless, with a pair of enchanting red phoenix eyes. Red phoenix eyes is the name for the perfect pair of eyes for Chinese women. Their outer corners are slanted slightly upwards. She was dressed in only a thin, black, lacy nightgown that barely covered her body. This added to her already charming sex appeal. Tang Yu's face turned red in an instant. He quickly averted his eyes. She did not seem to realize his discomfort and lazily stretched and yawned. Tang Hao's face became even redder. He handed over the package as he lowered his head. Delivery for you, Sis Xianyi. Qin Xianyi finally noticed why he was being so awkward. She lowered her head and looked at what she was wearing. Her pretty face blushed slightly. However, she was not a little girl and was not embarrassed that easily. She thought it amusing that the boy in front of her was being so embarrassed, and so broke into laughter. As she chuckled, she took the package and signed on the delivery slip with a pen. I haven't seen you in a while, Lil Hao. Oh. I was in the hospital some time ago because of an injury. I only got discharged yesterday, Tang Hao replied. Qin Xiangyi gasped in surprise. Injury. What happened? Are you okay now? I'm fine, very fine, Tang Hao replied as he tore off the delivery slip. As he lifted his head, he caught an eye of the underside of her nightgown again. Her snow-white skin was partly hidden by the cloth. The aromatic, tantalizing unique smell of a mature woman permeated the air. I'll be on my way then, Sis Xiangyi. He turned around and ran away as though he was escaping from something. Behind him, he could still hear someone chuckling. After hopping onto his three-wheeled motorcycle and driving a distance, Tang Hao could feel the fiery urge within him slowly cool down. He was only 18, the age of raging hormones. It was natural for him to be excited by that alluring scene earlier. This was not a rare occurrence for him while on the job. He had seen his fair share of poorly dressed people while making deliveries, and he did not feel awkward most of the time. Sis Xiangyi was different. She was too beautiful. In fact, she might have been the most beautiful woman that he had laid his eyes on. She was mature yet seductive. After calming down, he picked up the next package and scanned its information. House number 18. That's President Biao. President Biao's name was Jin Biao. He was a rich businessman who owned more than 10 businesses downtown. President Biao was the typical glutton. His online orders were all of food. He called President Biao and got through, then rode on his three-wheeled motorcycle to house number 18. The door opened very soon after he rang the doorbell. A man with a potbelly and round face appeared at the entrance. He wore a thick gold chain around his neck, and the reflected shimmering light made Tang Hao dizzy whenever he walked. Sign here please, President Biao, Tang Hao said as he handed over his package. President Biao took the package and signed the slip with an energetic scrawl. A woman's scolding voice was heard from inside the house. You wretch, buying food again. You know nothing but eat every day. If you don't lose any weight, one day you'll flatten me in bed. President Biao's face darkened. This D*MN woman. I might as well die if I can't eat what I want, he grumbled. Tang Hao looked at his body. He thought that President Biao should lose some weight. It would be a disaster otherwise. Sigh, I'd like to shed some pounds too. If only it were that easy. President Biao spoke to himself while rubbing his bulging stomach. He then entered the house with the package and closed the door. Faint noises of argument could be heard from within. Tang Hao chuckled, then turned around and left. He stopped dead in his tracks after taking a few steps as if he had suddenly thought of something. Lose weight. Right, I remember the scripture of the divine herbalist had a recipe for that. I'll be rich if I can concoct a weight loss potion. Tang Hao's eyes glistened. His big break was finally here. Chapter 3. Miracle Weight Loss Potion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The Jade Pendant had imparted a method of cultivation to Tang Hao, as well as an immense trove of long-lost ancient knowledge, including herbalism, medical skills, talisman making, supernatural monsters, and so on. The manual on herbalism was known as the Scripture of the Divine Herbalist. In it was the method of identifying different types of herbs and their uses. Tang Hao was extremely bored while in the hospital. He had skimmed over the Scripture of the Divine Herbalist and recalled that there was an entry about herbs that aided with weight loss as well as the method of concocting the potion. Living standards in modern society are high, and the rate of obesity is on the rise. Women are always conscious about their weight, and so the business of novel weight loss methods was a lucrative one. The market is saturated with weight loss pills and drugs of different types. Most of these are placebos with no real effect. The most effective way to lose weight is still diet and exercise. However, diet and exercise were hard because it required more willpower than the typical person could handle. Sounds like a good idea. Tang Hao became more excited the more he thought about it. If he could concoct an effective weight-loss potion, he was sure to strike a fortune. Right. I can concoct potions for beauty enhancement and health care and even aphrodisiacs. People will spend money on those. Tang Hao started considering other prospects. Beauty enhancement has always been a popular business because of women's desire to be beautiful. As for men, they are always concerned about their performance in bed. He was sure to make money if he could concoct these potions. Tang Hao was impatient to start his business. It was already late in the afternoon when he delivered all the packages. He withdrew the last 500 yuan in his bank account, then rode on his three-wheeled motorcycle to the medicinal herb market in the north of town. This was Tang Hao's first experience with medicinal herbs. Also, the archaic names of herbs in the scripture of the divine herbalist proved to be a challenge in this modern world. For example, one of the ingredients was a certain papyrifera grass. No one in the entire market knew what it was. He could only search the herbs one by one based on the characteristics as described in the scripture. He spent several hours in the market before gathering all the required ingredients. After some careful consideration, he purchased 5 portions of each ingredient. With the ingredients ready, the next step was to concoct the potions. After Tang Hao returned home and locked the front door, he placed the ingredients on the table, then held a portion of the herbs in his palm. Soon, his palm glowed like the full moon. The light enveloped the herbs in his palm. Medicinal herbs grew on the ground and absorbed qi that originated from the earth. He was activating the qi in the plant using the qi from his body. Once the qi in the plant is activated, its potency will be multiplied. Normal people would not be able to utilize their qi this way, and therefore cannot perform this act on plants, so the plants would not be able to achieve their full potency. Many potent medicinal herbs from ancient times were simply weeds in modern times because no one knew how to use them. In a few minutes, he placed the herb into a bowl and pounded it with a pestle. An hour later, his task was complete. He poured the liquid into a small bowl. The liquid was bright green and had the pungent aroma of grass. Tang Hao was somewhat befuddled as he looked at this small bowl of medicinal liquid. He had concocted the potion, but he needed a test subject. On the subject of safety, there was no issue. The potion was made from all natural ingredients and did not have any side effects. He was already lanky, and the potion would have no visible effect on him. He was stumped by this problem for quite a while. After pondering over the problem for some time, he suddenly had a brainwave. He realized that he could try the potion on animals instead of humans. It happened that his uncle next door reared 10 pigs. Each one of them was strong and fat and were perfect subjects for the potion. He sneaked outdoors after midnight and mixed the potion with pig feed, then poured it into the trough. The pigs in the pig pen heard the commotion and gathered around the trough, eating greedily. Good boys. Eat some more. Tang Hao could not help but laugh when he looked at the pigs. He then returned home and concocted the rest of the herbs, then slept soundly. He was awoken by shrill screams the next morning. He listened carefully and heard that they originated from beyond the back door. He immediately knew that his potion had taken effect. He rolled off the bed, put on some clothes and exited through the back door. A crowd had gathered around the pig pen and were discussing something while pointing at the pigs. Someone was wailing in the pig pen. My babies! What happened to them? Tang Hao squeezed past the crowd. He was stunned with what he saw in the pig pen. In the pig pen were 10 pigs reduced to skin and bones. All of them were fat and round the last time he saw them, and their weight was reduced drastically overnight. He was shocked by the potency of the potion he had concocted. Phew! Dodged a bullet right there. Tang Hao was relieved that he did not immediately use the undiluted potion on humans. It would have been disastrous if someone was reduced to a bag of skin and bones. This is so weird. I saw these pigs were still fat and round a few days ago, so fat that they could barely walk. How did this happen all of a sudden? I think they must have been scared by some supernatural being. It might have been Wong Tai Sin. The villagers were discussing among themselves in low voices. Tien, Wong Tai Sin is a legendary Taoist deity who is widely worshipped in Hong Kong. They stole glances at the mountain as they spoke. Tang Village was located next to a mountain. Legends have been passed down of Wong Tai Sin or snake spirits. It must be aliens or chupacabras. Some children were joining in the discussion. What do you know, little whelps? You must have watched too much TV. How can there be aliens? The adults jeered. Tang Hao also joined in the laughter. He was in a carefree mood. First, his concoction was a success. Second, he had taken his revenge on his aunt. He returned home and diluted the concoction with tea, then filled several bottles with it. He then rode on his little three-wheeled motorcycle and went to town. While delivering packages at Azure Sky Gardens, he gave President Biao a call. Hello. President Biao said over the phone. President Biao, it's me, Lil Tang. Hey, Lil Tang. What's the matter? Is there a delivery for me today? No, President Biao, I have something better though. What could be better? President Biao was doubtful. It's herbal tea. Family recipe. It can reduce heatiness and eliminate toxins from the body. You might even shed some weight too. I see that you're always heaty from eating too much, so I brought you some to try. Tang Hao did not immediately say that it was a weight loss potion. Herbal tea was probably an easier sell. Family recipe herbal tea. Oh. Sounds good. Let me try some, President Biao replied. Right away. Tang Hao agreed and hung up. President Biao was already waiting for him when Tang Hao arrived at house number 18. The bottle of the medicinal potion changed hands. President Biao opened a bottle and smelled it. Smells good. This is good stuff. Thanks, Lil Tang, that's very thoughtful of you. He nodded, then took out his wallet and pulled out a red note and handed it to him. Tien. The 100 yuan note is red. Oh. No need for that, President Biao, it's on the house. Tang Hao waved his hands in front of him. Oh. All right then. President Biao could only return the note to his wallet when he saw that Tang Hao insisted on not taking the money. In the evening, Tang Hao received a call from President Biao. Lil Tang. Oh my. Your herbal tea is unbelievable. Let me tell you, your herbal tea is a miracle drug. Do you know, I lost weight. I lost a total of 20 pounds. President Biao was ecstatic over the phone. His voice was shaking. Your herbal tea is miraculous. Do you have more? Just bring them over tomorrow. Name your price, President Biao said graciously. All right, President Biao, I'll bring more tomorrow. Good. President Biao was over the moon. Tang Hao exhaled a sigh of relief after hanging up. It's a success. Chapter 4. Channeling Chi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Early in the morning, Tang Hao rode on his little three-wheeled motorcycle to Azure Sky Gardens. Lil Tang. President Biao was already waiting for him. He excitedly ran toward Tang Hao when he was in view, as if he had just seen a long-lost relative. He was visibly slimmer. His potbelly probably lost a couple of pant sizes. Even so, his original corpulence meant that he still had a long way to go before being considered healthy. Lil Tang, that thing you made is wonderful. Your ancestors must have been miracle workers. President Biao said passionately while gripping Tang Hao's hands tightly. His weight was a problem that plagued him for the longest time. He had always wanted to lose some weight, though unfortunately, his willpower was too weak. He despaired after trying and failing a few times. The weight-loss potion was a new ray of hope. He had never encountered a herbal concoction as miraculous as that before. Its effects were seen immediately, losing 20 pounds the same day he drank it. He did not feel ill after drinking it. In fact, he felt a lot more energetic. This was a miracle. No slimming pill or herbal tea in the market could compare to this. You have any more, Lil Tang? President Biao looked at Tang Hao with eager eyes. Yes. No rush, President Biao. Tang Hao smiled and produced 5 bottles from his backpack. He had diluted the 4 portions of his herbal concoction into 20-odd bottles of tea to reduce its incredible potency. He brought only 5 of them this time. 5 bottles. President Biao's eyes sparkled. His joy was palpable. 1 bottle can lose me 20 pounds. 5 bottles, that's 100 pounds. I'll be a stylish man again after drinking all that. Huh, Lil Tang, I have to tell you. Don't look at my sorry state now. When I was your age, I'm actually popular among the ladies because of my looks. Give me a moment. I'll get your money. Such a good thing shouldn't be cheap. Be calm. He ran into the house and retrieved a bag. From it, he took out 3 stacks of banknotes. Here's 30,000 for you. He shoved the stacks of cash into Tang Hao's hands. That's a little too much, no? Tang Hao was shocked. Ha, not at all. If this isn't enough for you, just name your price and I'll pay for it. 6,000 for a bottle of this miraculous potion is too cheap. I'm not short of money anyway. Alright then. Tang Hao realized that he could not reject the money and therefore took it. He pinched the 3 stacks of banknotes and felt incredibly excited. That's 30,000 yuan. I toiled for an entire year and only saved a little more than 10,000. This was the easiest 30,000 yuan he had ever earned. Thank you, President Biao. Don't call me President Biao, just Bro Biao will do. Do you have any more of this stuff, Lil Tang? My wife has been complaining about her weight. That'll be perfect for her. I still have some more, I can send them over tomorrow, Tang Hao said. Alright, it's promised then. Right, Lil Tang, are you interested in marketing this miracle weight-loss potion? I don't think anything in the market now can compare to this. President Biao, shrewd entrepreneur he was, could sense the business opportunity in this herbal tea. Tang Hao had of course thought of that. However, he did not want to rely on someone else. I've thought of it before, but it's tricky to gather the ingredients and difficult to produce. I can't mass-produce this. Oh. President Biao was a little disappointed. Alright then, if you have some more of this stuff, I'll buy them off you. Your bro Biao has many friends and a lot of them are fatties. Don't worry about the money, you'll get your fair share. Roger that. Thank you, Bro Biao. After delivering packages, Tang Hao clutched the 30,000 yuan in his hands and took another trip to the medicinal herb market. He gathered medicinal components for another potion called the liquid of spiritual condensation. In ancient times, spiritual energy permeated the heavens and the earth. Qi masters of ancient times could inhale and exhale spiritual energy to cultivate their powers. In modern times, spiritual energy has been depleted, and only traces of it could be found in the air. Cultivators would find it very hard to extract spiritual energy from the air. The only way to cultivate one's qi in modern times was through elixirs. The liquid of spiritual condensation was not quite considered an elixir, but it suited his purpose. Before he could embark on his journey in cultivation, he had to ascend 2 states of being. The first was the state of qi channeling, and the second the state of foundation establishment. In the hospital, Tang Hao had sensed the presence of qi through practicing qi techniques. However, spiritual energy was weak in the heavens and the earth, and he could not ascend into the state of qi channeling. With the liquid of spiritual condensation, he could finally ascend into the state of qi channeling and embark on his path of qi cultivation. The most important ingredient in making the liquid of spiritual condensation was the lingzhi mushroom. Ideally, it would have to be more than 50 years of age. Lingzhi was a popular component in traditional Chinese medicine in modern times. It was very expensive and was usually sold in grams. A whole lingzhi mushroom could cost 4 or even 5 digits. He saw several shops selling lingzhi during his last trip to the herb market. He took another spin around the area and finally settled on a whole 60-year-old mushroom which cost him 15,000 yuan. The other components cost him 9,000 yuan in total. The 30,000 yuan that he had just acquired only had 9,000 left. This money won't last too long. Tang Hao thought to himself. He felt that he needed to make more money so that he could successfully cultivate his qi. After gathering the ingredients for the liquid of spiritual condensation, he went around the medicinal herb market one more time to gather the components of beauty enhancement potions and aphrodisiacs. He would try to concoct them tonight. He returned home and sat down in front of the table. First, he had to concoct the liquid of spiritual condensation. The method of production was the same as the weight-loss potion. Activate the potency of the various medicinal components with the qi in his body, then mix them in a bowl and pound with a pestle until a liquid is produced. That was the liquid of spiritual condensation. 2 hours later, he was finally done. Tang Hao sat with his legs crossed. He inhaled deeply, then picked up the bowl, tilted his head back and drank this golden liquid. The liquid touched his throat and turned boiling hot. He felt like there was a fire burning in his stomach. He urgently aligned the qi gates in his body to fully absorb the liquid's effects. The liquid was refined into qi in his body and permeated every cell. In this process, his body underwent changes and became stronger. A thick, black liquid oozed from his pores. Meanwhile, his physiology changed to become stronger. Even his face underwent minute changes. This was like being reborn. A full 6 hours later, Tang Hao opened his eyes. His eyes were full of spirit and shone like the stars. He had never felt so energetic before. His body was filled with strength and felt lighter. His surroundings were not illuminated but he could see everything clearly. Even his hearing had become more acute than before. His ears twitched as he could hear the sounds of heavy breathing and a shaking bed a few houses away. Tang Hao immediately blushed. He wondered why those people were not sleeping at such a late hour. Then, he smelled something that stank really bad. He frowned hard. He realized that the stink came from the black ooze that coated his body. He ran into the bathroom and gave himself a thorough shower. After the ooze was washed away, his skin was as fair and smooth as a newborn baby. He stepped in front of the mirror to look at himself. He was still himself, though his body looked somewhat unfamiliar. Tang Hao was shocked. After that, the shock became delight. He now knew that the journey on his life had diverted toward a different path. Chapter 5. Door.2 Door Marketing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Tang Hao almost did not sleep that night. He ran into the mountain to test his strength. After imbibing the liquid of spiritual condensation, his body had undergone a total transformation. His speed, strength, and reflexes were far superior to a normal person. Before this, his body was weak, and he could not even win a fight against a hooligan. Now, he could knock out one in a single punch. He toiled for half the night in the mountain, then returned home to concoct the 2 other types of potions. After a short nap, he left for work early in the morning. Uncle Li could not stop peering at his face that morning, as if he did not recognize his worker. "Hey, Lil Tang. Why do I feel that you've become stronger? And is your skin fairer? It's like you've stepped into someone else's body," Uncle Li said, puzzled. He then walked toward Tang Hao and pinched his shoulder. Uncle Li, you might be mistaken. I don't feel any difference. Tang Hao pretended to be unaware of the change. Uncle Li continued to peer at Tang Hao, then shook his head and mumbled, looks like I've mistaken. Sigh. These old eyes aren't doing me any good these days. Tang Hao simply smiled. He loaded the packages into his ride and headed to Azure Sky Gardens. President Biao was also shocked when he saw him as if he had seen a ghost. You're Lil Tang. Did I remember wrong? Why do I feel that your skin is much fairer? You look different. President Biao was confused too. Tang Hao smiled and retrieved a big plastic bag from his three-wheeled motorcycle. He passed it to President Biao. Bro Biao, here's what I have left. 16 bottles in total. President Biao's eyes shone and hastily grabbed the plastic bag. He looked into the bag and showed a face of delight. This is great. Lil Tang, thank you so much. President Biao was over the moon. He held on to Tang Hao's hands tightly. 16 bottles at 6,000 yuan each. That's 90.6 thousand. I'll round it up to 100,000. Lil Tang, do you want cash or should I transfer it to your account? President Biao asked. Cash is fine. Tang Hao answered after thinking about it for a short while. The 100,000 yuan would be used up very fast at the medicinal herb market. It was a lot more convenient to have cash on hand. Alright, wait a moment. President Biao went back into his house with the bag. When he emerged, he handed a black briefcase to Tang Hao. He opened the briefcase and looked inside. 10 stacks of fresh banknotes. He was dazzled by the bright redness. His breathing became a little faster. He had never seen so much money before. He inhaled deeply to regain his composure. Thank you, Bro Biao. What do you mean, I should be the one thanking you? Remember, if you have more in the future, just send them over. President Biao excitedly clapped Tang Hao's shoulders. You bet I got that. Oh. Right, Bro Biao, I've brought something else as well. I wonder if you're interested. Tang Hao said. Oh. What's that? President Biao's interest was piqued. Tang Hao opened his backpack and retrieved a small bottle from within. He coughed lightly, then lowered his voice and spoke mysteriously, Bro Biao, this thing can strengthen your manhood. President Biao's eyes sparkled, then smiled obscenely. He huddled close to Tang Hao and asked in a low voice, really? He was not ready to believe him, though he was still excited all the same. Middle-aged men already past their prime could not perform in bed as they used to. This was a miracle potion only found in his dreams. Of course, also it's all natural without side effects. I can guarantee that you'll be full of energy after you drink it. President Biao could not hold back his excitement. Tang Hao's weight-loss potion had convinced him that this potion would be equally as potent too. His eyes almost shot beams of green light when he saw the bottle in Tang Hao's hand. Quick! Let me try. Now. Tang Hao was puzzled. Of course. President Biao's face turned red. He snatched the bottle, opened the cap and poured the contents into his mouth. Ah! Wait! Tang Hao was too late in stopping him. He was flustered after seeing President Biao drink half the bottle in one gulp. It's over, he shouted. What's over? President Biao asked nervously. Tang Hao snatched the bottle back. Bro Biao, I forgot to tell you, this potion is very potent. You only need to take a few sips each time. Now that you've drunk half a bottle in one gulp, I can only offer my condolences. President Biao stared at him in puzzlement. A while later, his face changed and he cupped his hands over his crotch. Wait here, Lil Tang. President Biao rushed into the house as if his butt was on fire. Following that was a shriek. Why are you in such a hurry, you wretch? Tang Hao was speechless standing outside the house. Even after covering his ears, he could still hear the happenings in the house because of his newly heightened senses. He waited for a long while but did not see President Biao emerge from the house. He hopped onto his three-wheeled motorcycle to continue with his deliveries. He returned to President Biao's house an hour later. President Biao was leaning against the wall. His legs were weak and his face looked dehydrated, but he was in high spirits. Lil Tang. Oh. That was a miracle. Bro Biao, had never been such a beast in bed. He stuttered. Take it easy, Bro Biao, Tang Hao said with a smile. I know. Lil Tang, your potions are incredible. Do you still have any more? I'll buy all of them. 20,000 a bottle. President Biao proclaimed while slapping his chest. Just take this one first, I'll give you some more tomorrow. Tang Hao handed the half bottle over. President Biao took the bottle from his hands. He went into the house again and emerged with another 2 stacks of banknotes. Thank you, Bro Biao. I also have something else for you. It's a beauty cream for the missus. Tang Hao produced a small metal box from his backpack. Inside was his beauty enhancement concoction. He had concocted the beauty enhancement medicinal herbs into a cream for external use. It could whiten the complexion and remove any blemishes, rejuvenating and moisturizing the skin. Great! President Biao hurriedly took the box from him. After his deliveries, Tang Hao clutched the 120,000 yuan in his hand and bought more portions of ingredients for the liquid of spiritual condensation. That used up more than half of the money. He bought more ingredients to concoct weight loss and aphrodisiac potions and beauty enhancement creams. His backpack was bulging. The weight loss potion is perfect. As for the aphrodisiac, I'll need to dilute it more, otherwise, it would backfire on the drinker. As for the beauty cream, I still don't know its effectiveness. Tang Hao pondered. The beauty cream was different from the weight loss and aphrodisiac potions. It was to be applied externally. He realized that women had different skin types and therefore he needed a bigger sample size. He did not have many female friends though. This is a tricky problem indeed. Where am I going to find that many women to try my cream? Tang Hao thought as he sped on the roads on his little three-wheeled motorcycle. Suddenly, his eyes caught a flashing signboard in the distance. Paradise Bathhouse. Tang Hao parked in front of the building. Looking from the outside, the interior was bathed in a warm red glow. The atmosphere was intimate. He hesitated at the entrance for a while, wondering if there was some shady business going on inside. His heart was thumping hard. Should I go in and take a look? His heart thumped even harder. He hesitated at the entrance for a long while more before he said to himself, never mind, I shouldn't go in. It'll be too awkward. At this moment, 2 women emerged from within. They were dressed skimpily and wore heavy makeup. They saw Tang Hao standing outside and their eyes sparkled. This boy may be plainly dressed, but he had a fit body and a handsome face. There was an inexplicable aura around him. Hey, handsome. Come in and play with us. They waved at Tang Hao and winked at him. One of them even walked toward him, grabbed his hand and pulled him inside. Ah! It's fine. Tang Hao's face was bright red. His head was shaking like a baby's rattle. Oh, don't be shy. You're so cute when you are shy. The woman winked again at him as she continued pulling him into the building. I'm not. I'm here to market something. Tang Hao shouted. A salesman. Great. Then you should come in. The other woman grabbed hold of Tang Hao's other hand. Tang Hao's face was red like a ripe apple. His body was stiff and out of his control. What are you selling, handsome? The woman on his left chuckled. Oh. Some beauty enhancement products. Cosmetics, Tang Hao said, it's free to try. Free. Then I'll have to take some for myself later, the woman chuckled. They entered the building as they spoke. They had not walked too far before they heard screeching brakes coming from outside the building. Following that was a flurry of footsteps that barged in through the door. Don't move. On the floor, now. Chapter 6. Framed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Prostitution Crackdown. These two words smacked Tang Hao on the head like a mallet. He felt a little dizzy. *T. Are they going to arrest me too? Tang Hao was nervous. He was about to turn around and head straight out when a group of police officers rushed in through the front door and descended upon the occupants of the building like a pack of wolves. The two women next to him screamed in panic. Crouch on the floor now. Do you hear me? The police officers ordered fiercely as they pointed at the three people. Officer, this is none of my business. I'm not here for the girls, Tang Hao said weakly as he sheepishly raised an arm. Ha! You're already here. Why else would you be in here if not for prostitution? Oh, and you're looking for a threesome too. You look young, but you're already such a player. A police officer sneered at him. I'll tell you that I've caught many others who said the same thing. Crouch down now, do you hear me? Officer, I'm really innocent, Tang Hao argued. Down. Now. The police officer sprang at Tang Hao and pinned him on the floor. Tang Hao felt anger surge within him. He instinctively wanted to fight back, though he restrained himself in the nick of time. Attacking a police officer was a bigger offense. He swallowed his pride and crouched on the floor. He was extremely frustrated. I'm so sorry. The two women apologized to him. Oh. Why am I so unlucky? Tang Hao sighed helplessly. He thought it was all over for him. There was no way he could prove his innocence. The police officers raided the rest of the building. Screams of surprise and panic were heard everywhere. It was chaotic. Some people dashed out of the rooms without wearing any clothes. They were pinned down by the police on the floor. The more you know. Tang Hao mumbled as he looked inside. He heard another set of footsteps coming from outside. He turned around to see who it was and the sight made him gawk. A female police officer came in from the foyer. She had a delicate, round face with a sharp chin. Her eyebrows were like brush strokes and her lips were alluring. Her beauty touched his soul. Her skin was white as snow or like mutton fat jade one. Her long, straight hair was untied and swayed gently as she walked. Her curvaceous body was explosively sexy. Her legs were long and slender and caught the eyes of every hot-blooded male. The standard police uniform on her looked fashionable and even attractive. Tang Hao was not the only one staring at her as she walked through the door. Even the Johns that were crouching in the corridor could not take their eyes away from her. Their mouths were agape, and they drooled uncontrollably. F***ck. This is a masterpiece. I'll be satisfied for the next 10 years if I get to fondle those legs. A few Johns catcalled her. Their drool formed a puddle on the floor. The female police officer furrowed her brows and displayed a look of disgust. All of you are scum, trash. She squinted slightly as her eyes scanned across the group of men crouched on the floor. She paused her gaze on Tang Hao. Her umber brows were locked even tighter. What are kids learning these days? Becoming human scum at such a young age. Tang Hao felt that he was wrongly accused. He had not done anything perverse but was treated as a sex maniac. I haven't done anything. I'm just a salesman. Humph, don't think I'll believe you, the female police officer sneered, stay down there and don't move. The female police officer continued walking toward the interior of the building. Catcalls and whistles were heard continuously. Soon, the interior became silent. A group of police officers escorted a group of people toward the exit. "Get up and start walking." One police officer yelled at the group of people, including Tang Hao. "Officer, I." Tang Hao stood up and tried to explain himself. "Shut up. If you have anything to say, you can make a statement back at the station," the police officer said in a fierce tone. "Move. Now." Tang Hao had no choice but to obediently follow the group toward the exit. The female police officer caught up with the group as they neared the exit. She stood at the door, her expression as cold as a glacier. This did not dampen the spirits of the group of Johns. Their eager eyes gawked upon the officer's curvaceous body as they made animal noises. "What are you doing?" The group of police officers was impatient and forcefully shoved the group out of the door. Tang Hao was pushed along by the crowd. He stole a few glances at the female police officer. She noticed that Tang Hao was looking at her, and glared fiercely at him. Tang Hao did not think that the female police officer's glare was intimidating, rather he felt pleased with it. It was a different feeling than the other times he was looked down upon. Tang Hao tightened his lips and averted his eyes. Just then, he noticed at the corner of his eye that a man broke free from the crowd and rushed toward the female police officer. In his hand was a box cutter. Everyone was shocked by the abrupt attack, even the police officers did not react in time. Cracking down a prostitution ring had always been an easy task, and they had not expected to encounter a violent criminal. They were not more than 2 meters apart. The female police officer was shocked and stood on the spot, all color gone from her face. The man was already up to the female police officer's face. Without a second thought, Tang Hao instinctively dashed forward and hugged the police officer. Both of them fell on the floor. He instantly felt warmth and fragrance in his embrace. The body that he was hugging was soft as if she had no bones. Her aroma plucked his heartstrings. His eyes happened to meet with hers. They were profound, clear, and enchanting, like gemstones. They were stunned for a while as they locked eyes. The next moment, a look of shame and anger appeared on her charming face. "Ah! I'm so sorry." Tang Hao cried as his face flushed bright red. As he struggled to get up, his hand slipped and groped onto something soft. "What's this?" Tang Hao reflexively gave it a pinch. The female police officer's eyes grew big and round as if they could spit fire. Tang Hao realized the mistake he made. His body stiffened and his face was red as a ripe apple. I didn't mean to," he spoke timidly. The female police officer gritted his teeth and shot daggers from her eyes. Before she could say anything, the man rushed onto her with the box cutter. "Go away," she flipped Tang Hao aside and kicked the box cutter out of the man's hand. "Nab him." The other police officers came to their senses and piled on the man. They finally subdued him and cuffed him up. Tang Hao stood up, still a little dazed. The scene earlier happened like a dream. He looked at his left hand, then at the female police officer. She glared at him again and chided, "Despicable, shameless." Tang Hao felt like he was wrongly accused. He had saved her life, and furthermore, he did not mean to grope. How was he being despicable and shameless? The injustice. Tang Hao sighed again and became more frustrated. "Walk faster." The police officer at the front of the crowd yelled. Tang Hao was escorted into a police car which then drove toward the police station. Chapter 7. To the rescue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. In the interrogation room, Tang Hao sat up straight. In front of him were 2 police officers. One of them was the beautiful lady. The expression on her face was freezing. The gaze with which she looked at Tang Hao even had a hint of killing intent. "What is your name?" The young male police officer sitting on the left asked. Tang Hao. How old are you, and where are you from? I am 18, from Tang Village. 18. You're a student. No, I dropped out of school long ago. I'm a delivery boy now. The male police officer furrowed his brows and displayed an expression of disgust. No wonder you have this bad habit of. Do you admit guilt to whatever you did today? What did I do today? It's. The male police officer slammed the table and spoke with a louder voice. Don't try to play dumb, kid. You said you are innocent. How could it be that you are innocent? I'm really innocent, officer. Tang Hao was anxious. If he admitted guilt, he would be locked away for at least 2 weeks. Nonsense. The male police officer's eyebrows straightened and his face was grim. We caught you inside. If you're not in there for, what else are you there for? I really wasn't there for, officer. I was only there to promote a product. You're a salesman. Wait, didn't you say you were a delivery boy earlier? Yes, I'm a delivery boy. Who says that delivery boys can't moonlight as salesmen? Tang Hao said confidently, also, you don't have proof that I broke any laws. As far as I know, for I'll need to be caught in the act. You can't lock me up with that. Tang Hao realized that there was no point in explaining his innocence. He would have to fight for it. You're a smart one. The male police officer sneered. He turned over to whisper at the female police officer. Qingxue, this kid is a tough one. Looks like we won't be able to lock him up with what we have on him. Zhao Qingxue's expression was icy as she glared at the boy sitting in front of her. She abruptly slammed the table and stood up. She forcefully glared at Tang Hao who was sitting down. This kid is so despicable. She thought in her heart as she remembered the scene earlier. She gritted her teeth, trying hard to stop herself from slapping the boy. She did not believe his excuse that he was a salesman. This boy looked gentle and bookish and was even a little handsome, but as the saying goes, he might be a wolf in sheep's clothing. Who knows if that innocent face concealed a perverted soul? What are you looking at? I saved your life. Tang Hao rolled his eyes. Bang! Zhao Qingxue slammed on the table again. He had ticked her off this time. This kid knows how to get on my nerves. So then, tell me, what product are you promoting? The words were squeezed one by one from her gritted teeth. Oh. It's a beauty cream. Tang Hao opened his backpack and produced a small metal box about half the size of his palm. He unscrewed the lid. Inside the box was a pure white cream that emitted a relaxing scent. This beauty cream is an ancestral recipe. It can whiten the skin and remove any blemishes so that your skin becomes soft and shiny, Tang Hao explained. Pfft. Who are you cheating? That's all just plain deception, the male police officer mocked. Let the product speak for itself then. I can swear upon my ancestors that the cream works. Do you want to try, officer? You can have it for free. Save it for yourself. Who knows what's inside this ancestral recipe? Zhao Qingxue looked at it with a face of disgust. Never mind then. Tang Hao said bitterly. The door to the interrogation room opened. A police officer came in and whispered into Zhao Qingxue's ear. We've run a check. No one expected that the guy was a murderer on the lam. That was why he decided to risk it to escape. Looks like we've done a great deed. As for this kid, he's innocent. The 2 girls vouched for him. Tang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. Zhao Qingxue's face looked terrible. May I go now, officer? Tang Hao said as a wide grin appeared on his face. Zhao Qingxue slammed the table as her face darkened. She stood up from her seat and glared straight at Tang Hao with her charming eyes. She turned around violently and left the room. You can go now. the male police officer told him. It was already dark when he left the police station. I gotta fetch my ride first. It should still be at the bathhouse. Tang Hao clutched his backpack closer to him and walked in that direction. The city at night time was a melting pot of earthly desires. The sign of modern progress. Tang Hao was relaxed as he walked along the streets, enjoying the cool nighttime air. The course of his life was already changing. As long as he kept true to this path, he was sure to be rewarded with fame and riches. He nimbly strode toward his destination, full of determination. While he was walking, he heard someone calling in front of him. Hey, beautiful lady, don't just go yet. Come play with us. Perverted laughter broke out, indicating that there were a few people. Damn, this chick is hot. She looks better than any celebrity out there. I'd pay with 3 years of my life to *ck her once. Pa. What's 3 years? I'd pay 5. The jeers continued, interspersed by the voice of a woman. Go away. Don't touch me. She spoke haltingly and sounded like she was drunk. Tang Hao furrowed his brows. There were a few bars along the street ahead of him. These people must have come from there. Time for this moral citizen to perform their civic duty. Tang Hao had always been a good Samaritan. He could not tolerate seeing someone bullied. The last incident that ended up in a hospital visit had intimidated him, but it did not cause him to stop helping others. After he became a cultivator and his abilities grew stronger, he had even more reason to step in and interfere. Furthermore, in the heart of every hot-blooded man was the desire to be a hero. Tang Hao was no exception. This is the perfect chance to try my abilities. Tang Hao clenched his fists. He excitedly walked forward. Very soon, he saw a woman stumbling toward him. Her hair was unkempt and he could not see her face clearly, though her voluptuous body was a breathtaking one. She was a slender woman with curves at all the right places. She was wearing a black Western-style jacket and a tight miniskirt, flaunting the curves of her body. Her long and straight legs were in black pantyhose. On her feet were a pair of high heels that were 7 or 8 centimeters tall. She barely kept her balance. Behind her were 5 or 6 men. They were dressed like hooligans and were obviously up to no good. Watch your step, beautiful lady. Let us help you. Don't you know, my nickname is the Indestructible Golden Spear. We can do it 7 times tonight, satisfaction guaranteed. The one who looked like their leader smiled obscenely and rushed toward her. He stretched out a hand to grope at the woman's rear. Stop. A booming voice was heard on the streets. This frightened the lead hooligan. He looked shocked. He looked around and saw a boy walking toward him. Ha ha ha. Where did this idiot come from? Wanna be a hero? Ha ha ha. This is hilarious. He laughed uncontrollably while clutching his stomach. The other hooligans behind him also started laughing too. Chapter 8. This guy is inhuman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. This idiot must have *T for brains. The bunch of hooligans laughed as they mocked the boy that was walking toward them. The group looked like they were in their mid-20s and they dressed like gangsters. Their leader was dressed in a tight leather jacket and his hair was dyed yellow. His eyes were slanted and looked vicious. He glared at Tang Hao and sneered, "Mind your own business. I'm in a good mood today, and I don't want to dirty my hands." He turned around to his followers and ordered, "Carry her away." The other hooligans excitedly rubbed their palms, stepping forward to grope at the woman. Stop. Tang Hao roared. He dashed in front and shouted, "Don't touch her, human scum." The group of hooligans was riled. *CKU, who are you to yell at me? Let's see if you can walk out alive. A hooligan rolled up his sleeve, and his face was menacing. He clenched his fist and with a quick forward step, hurled a punch at Tang Hao's face. The punch carried a gust of wind with it, and its force might have been intimidating to the typical passerby. Tang Hao was no typical passerby. He was excited when the hooligan raised his fist. He raised his own fist to meet with that punch. Idiot! The hooligan smirked. Their friend was bigger in size and obviously a lot stronger. The skinny kid was no match for him. Bang! The two fists rammed into each other. The hooligan's arrogant and condescending face froze. His eyes bulged and his face contorted from pain. Sweat beads appeared on his forehead. Aha! His agonized scream tore across the peaceful night. He stumbled a few backward steps and bumped into a parked car. He crouched and curled into a fetal position, holding his right hand and trembling violently. His eyes that were transfixed on Tang Hao had a hint of terror in them as if looking at some monster. The other hooligans were dumbfounded. Their faces were full of incredulity. They did not believe the scene that happened in front of them. A 17 or 18-year-old teenager had defeated a fully grown adult with a single punch. Are you F***king kidding me? The yellow-haired hooligan rubbed his eyes from disbelief. Tang Hao himself was also shocked. He had tested his strength in the mountain, though he had not put it to use in actual battle and did not know his power. He was satisfied with this trial. As for the rest of you, scram! He roared at the other hooligans. F***king hell, who are you to order me? You're still sucking your mother's milk when I ruled the streets. Ask me to scram. I'll cripple you. The yellow-haired hooligan roared and pulled out a switchblade from his back. He rushed toward Tang Hao. The other hooligans also pulled out their blades and swarmed at him. I'll kill you. The yellow-haired hooligan's face was savage. He raised his arm to stab at Tang Hao's chest. Tang Hao was a little flustered when he saw the blade. His last stint at the hospital was because of a stab after all. He regained his composure quickly after. He focused his gaze and clearly discerned his opponent's movements. He shifted his feet and dodged the stab. Then, he stretched his arms and grabbed onto the yellow-haired hooligan's knife hand, and twisted sharply. Crack! Everyone heard the crisp sound of a bone fracture, followed by a heartrending scream. Bro dong! The other hooligans were in strike range as they roared. Tang Hao's eyes flashed. He lifted the yellow-haired hooligan and swung him like a rod to the other hooligans. The other hooligans panicked and stumbled when they were hit. Tang Hao rushed forward like a tiger let loose amid a herd of sheep. He punched in all directions and rearranged the hooligans' faces with his fist. In a flash, the hooligans were all sprawled on the floor wailing like babies. It was a pathetic scene. That felt good. Tang Hao flexed his arms and exhaled. The hooligans pushed themselves off the ground, their eyes full of fear as they met Tang Hao's gaze. F***ck, this guy isn't human. Run away. They helped each other up then fled from the scene. Bunch of softies. Tang Hao mumbled. He only turned around when they disappeared from sight. The woman stumbled along as she supported herself with a parked car. Her footsteps were increasingly unstable and looked like she was going to collapse at any time. Tang Hao hesitated for a moment, but went forward anyway. Hey! Are you okay? He reached out a hand to try to support her but was pushed away. Don't touch me. Go away. She mumbled. She half-turned as she pushed Tang Hao's hand away. Tang Hao could see her flawless side profile. Her skin was ivory-white, her crimson lips were enchanting, and her nose was tall and straight. Her phoenix eyes were slightly narrowed and exhibited an aura of mystery. Her hair was long, straight and black, and shone under the street lights. It was a stark contrast to her fair skin. Her beauty had left Tang Hao breathless. What's up with me today? Meeting two stunning beauties in a row. Tang Hao mumbled to himself. Before today, he would never even encounter the shadow of a beautiful woman when walking on the streets. Today, he met two in a row. First was the female police officer, and now the one in front of his eyes. If he were to be frank with himself, it was hard to decide which of these two women was more beautiful. Both of them had their unique characteristics. The police officer was more of a heroine, and this woman in front of her was more alluring. She took a few more steps forward when her body stumbled and almost fell. Tang Hao rushed forward and grabbed her with his arms. Hey! What's your name? Where do you live? Tang Hao asked loudly. The woman in his arms mumbled something as if she was talking in her sleep. He could not understand her. Soon, she stopped moving. Tang Hao stood there, dumbfounded. What was he going to do about this stunning beauty in his arms? F***ck me, what do I do now? Tang Hao was confused. I can't just leave her on the streets. However, he did not know where she lived, and it would be awkward if he brought her back to his house. I'll check her into a hotel room then. He could only think of this idea. Tang Hao walked forward with her arm over his shoulder. He walked for less than 100 meters before he arrived at a motel. He checked into a double room, and carried her on his back and walked upstairs. After entering the room, he dumped her on the bed. She mumbled something as if about to wake up. Hot. So hot. Still unconscious, she lifted her arms to pull at her clothes. Hey, hey. What are you doing? Tang Hao was panicking. If she woke up the next day to find herself in a state of undress, how would he explain himself out of it? Amitabha, Buddha in heaven. Tang Hao closed his eyes and muttered the phrase a few times. He calmed himself down, then went to grab the blanket and covered her body. She flipped over while grabbing the blanket, then fell asleep once more. Damn. Tang Hao breathed a sigh of relief then sat down heavily. He wanted to leave her alone, but he could not be at ease. So, he stayed. He opened his backpack, retrieved some medicinal herbs, and started concocting the liquid of spiritual condensation. Chapter 9. Ling Wei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The morning sunlight shone through the cracks in the curtains and illuminated the room. Tang Hao was sitting cross-legged on the bed. He was concocting the liquid of spiritual condensation for the entire night as well as imbibing it. After producing 2 portions of the liquid, he realized that the qi in his body was blossoming. The state of qi channeling was subdivided into the early, middle and late periods. He was in the early period of this state. The qi in his body was still considered weak in this period. He would not be able to perform sorcery or make talismans. These techniques required him to be at least in the middle period of the state of qi channeling, and some even in the late period. He estimated that at this rate, he will be achieving the middle period in a few more months. Tang Hao opened his eyes when he felt a ray of sunlight land on his face. It's already morning. Tang Hao yawned and stretched. He was in good spirits even though he did not sleep for the entire night. He drew the curtains. The morning sunlight was perfect. He turned around and saw something move beneath the blanket on the other bed. A head emerged from beneath the blankets. A pair of hands rubbed the sleep away from the eyes. The woman sat up, stretched her arms and yawned. The blanket that covered her fell onto her lap, unveiling a wondrous scene. Her was half exposed, and her waist was lithe like a water snake. The curves of her body shifted elegantly as she stretched. She was dazzling in the morning sunlight, like a perfect work of art. Her lazy movements had a certain allure to them. Tang Hao stared unblinkingly at her. He felt his nose turning hot and it nearly bled. The woman was oblivious to all this. She stretched and yawned without a care for the world. About 10 seconds later, she realized something was not quite right. She turned around and saw Tang Hao standing by the window. Looking down, her charming face turned pale and she let out a piercing shriek. You animal! What did you do to me? She clutched the blanket and wrapped it around her body. On her face was an expression of panic and helplessness. She was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Did her virginity that she had preciously guarded for so many years had been so carelessly lost? Tang Hao explained hastily, "You're mistaken. I didn't do anything. I was passing by a bar yesterday when I saw a few hooligans harassing you, so I chased them away. I thought of sending you back home, but you were unconscious. I didn't know where you lived, so I sent you here. I really didn't do anything. Your clothes. You undid them yourself." The woman's facial expression became more relaxed as she heard the explanation. She sighed gently. She did not feel any discomfort with her body. She tried to recall what happened the night before, and his story seemed to match. She did undo the clothes herself. She lowered her head, her face was blushing madly. I'm sorry." Her voice was as small as a mosquito's buzz. "No problem," Tang Hao said awkwardly. Then, there was an uneasy silence between them. Do you think you can turn around?" The woman lifted her head and pleaded to Tang Hao while looking at him. "Oh." Tang Hao immediately turned away. Behind him, he heard her putting on clothes. "Thank you for your help last night. You look young, are you still a student?" "Nah, I'm not in school anymore. I do deliveries now." Tang Hao sounded bitter when saying that. Being a school dropout was one of his biggest regrets. "Oh." She acknowledged the statement but did not offer any further reply. Tang Hao's lips tightened. He thought she must be looking down upon him. He could see that she was of a different social class. She was either rich or well-connected, and a bottom-feeder like him could not compare. "Done," she said a few minutes later. Tang Hao turned around and his eyes brightened. The woman in front of him left a different impression on him. She was properly dressed yet at the same time looked elegant. There were no words to describe her beauty. The tight miniskirt and black pantyhose added some seductiveness to her body. She smiled gently as she produced a name card from her purse and passed it to him. "This is my name card. Feel free to contact me if you need anything." Tang Hao looked carefully at the card that was handed to him and was immediately shocked. Ling Wei. Tie-in Group. President. His irises contracted when he saw the word president and a look of stunned awe appeared on his face. "She's a VIP. Tang Hao said in his heart. I have other urgent matters to attend to. I'm leaving." Ling Wei turned around and headed to the room door. She stopped walking after a few steps, then opened her handbag and took out her purse. She pulled out a stack of 100-yuan notes and handed it to Tang Hao. "It's fine." Tang Hao waved his hands, indicating that he did not want the money. "Just take it. It pays for the room at least," Ling Wei insisted. "All right then." Tang Hao took the money seeing that he could not reject it. "Right, this one's for you." Tang Hao retrieved a bottle of beauty enhancement cream from his backpack. "What's this?" Ling Wei furrowed her brows and asked doubtfully. "It's hand-made. Ancestral recipe. Beauty cream." Ling Wei was shocked. She did not burst out laughing out of common courtesy. What's the use of an ancestral recipe? She could not bear to decline Tang Hao's sincerity. She took the bottle, mouthed a word of thanks, then turned around and left the room. Tang Hao watched as she left. He lifted the name card to look at it again before keeping it in a safe place. "Ah, right. My ride. Tang Hao slapped his forehead. He had just remembered that his three-wheeled motorcycle was still parked at the bathhouse. He hastily rushed there to find that his ride was already long missing. F***ck. Which B***** stole my ride? Tang Hao complained loudly. With the small fortune he had earned, he was not too concerned about this loss. He called Uncle Li to take half a day off, then took a bus to return to Tang village. He had just arrived home when he received a call from President Biao. Hello. Lil Tang. Why aren't you here yet? Your bro Biao is so anxious. Bro Biao, I had something in the morning, and that'll take a while. I'll go over around noon, Tang Hao said. Right, has the missus tried the beauty cream? How is it? President Biao replied loudly, she used it. She's almost going crazy. Ah. Going crazy. No, not literally going crazy. She's crazy happy and crazy anxious waiting for you to send over some more. Your beauty cream is like a miracle. Unbelievable. President Biao spoke passionately. What legend do you have for an ancestor, Lil Tang? How can they be so amazing? Haha. Tang Hao laughed awkwardly. His ancestors were not legends, but only mere peasants. Remember, bring more later. I'll take your entire lot. Money isn't a problem. President Biao said graciously. Alright, I'll deliver some over later. Tang Hao agreed, then hung up the call. Chapter 10. Sis Xiangyi again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, 1 bottle, 2 bottles, 3 bottles. Tang Hao counted the bottled of weight-loss herbal tea that stood in a line on the table. There were 20 bottles in total. 20 bottles. That's about all I have. Tang Hao mumbled, then packed the bottles of weight-loss herbal tea into his backpack. If they sold at 6,000 yuan a bottle, he was looking at 120,000 yuan. And this other potion. 1 bottle, 2. 8 bottles, that's about enough. He packed the other potion into his backpack too. The last one was the beauty enhancement cream. There were 10 boxes in total. His backpack was bulging after all the potions were packed. He carefully wore the backpack then left the house. In town, he bought another 3-wheeled motorcycle and clocked into work. It was already noon when he arrived at Azure Sky Gardens. Lil Tang. You're finally here. President Biao was standing in front of house number 18. He shouted excitedly when he saw Tang Hao arrive. Tang Hao almost could not recognize him after only a day. He was already down 40 or 50 pounds and looked only slightly chubby. The contours of his face changed, and he did look quite handsome. Standing next to President Biao was a 30-something-year-old woman. She was President Biao's wife, and her name was Wu Yanyan. Bro Biao, ma'am. Tang Hao greeted them after he got off the motorcycle. Lil Tang. Your beauty cream is wonderful. Look at this, my skin is so much fairer after one day. Wu Yanyan lifted her left arm to show Tang Hao. Then, she lifted her right arm. The skin color on both arms was obviously different. The left arm was fair, and the skin on the right arm was much duller. Looks marvelous. Tang Hao thought. So did you bring more, Lil Tang? Let me see, Wu Yanyan said impatiently. Yes. I brought 10 boxes. Tang Hao opened his backpack and took out the boxes of beauty cream. Wu Yanyan was incredibly thrilled. How about mine, Lil Tang? President Biao was impatient too. No rush. They're all here. 8 bottles in total. Tang Hao took out the bottles of aphrodisiac potion one by one. President Biao cradled the bottles in his arms as if they were priceless treasures. Oh my! 8 bottles. President Biao could not stop smiling. And there's weight-loss potions too. 20 bottles in total. Do you want them all, President Biao? Of course, why wouldn't I want them? I'll take all that you have. My friends tried it and now they're pestering for more. It's always in demand, President Biao said. All right then. Tang Hao handed the backpack to him. Let me calculate. This potion, I'll give you 20,000 each for them, so 8 bottles are 160,000. Weight-loss potions are 6,000 each, no, 8,000. My bunch of friends have nothing but money and will buy no matter the price you ask. So that's 160,000 too. As for the beauty cream. What's the price, Lil Tang? It's up to you, Bro Biao. How does 5,000 sound? So 10 boxes are 50,000, and the total is 370,000. I'll transfer it to your account later, Lil Tang. President Biao said. All right. Tang Hao replied. President Biao saw the delivery packages on the little three-wheeled motorcycle and said, Lil Tang, you've made yourself a pretty penny now. Why are you still delivering packages? I, Bro Biao, have never admired a person. You're the first one, Lil Tang. You're a legend, Lil Tang. With all your hidden talents, why are you still a delivery boy? You can make a fortune with these potions alone. Right, right. Wu Yanyan continued, Lil Tang, do you have a girlfriend? If not, Sis Wu will recommend one for you. It's fine. Tang Hao blushed. Ah, what are you embarrassed about, kid? Sis Wu chuckled. Tang Hao waved goodbye to the two people, then rode on his three-wheeled motorcycle and drove forward. He contemplated quitting the job. He still had about 60,000 yuan in cash, and with the 370,000 earlier, it was 430,000. It was a small fortune. He will definitely earn more than that in the future. Considering that there was nothing important in his life at the moment, he did not mind delivering packages in the meantime. Furthermore, Uncle Li had reserved his job in the half-month he was in the hospital. Quitting his job immediately would be sheer ingratitude. He planned to stay on his job a little while longer, then give Uncle Li an advance notice so that he can look for his replacement. At this moment, the phone in his pocket vibrated. He checked the notification to see that the money was already in his bank account. 430,000. Tang Hao's heart skipped a beat. If it was like before, he did not know if he could save up that much even if he toiled for his entire life. Should I buy something for myself? He mumbled as he looked at the shabby clothes he wore. He also looked at the outdated phone in his hand and the tattered shoes on his feet. He thought about it for a while, then shook his head. Never mind, it's not necessary. 430,000 isn't that much, and I'd rather spend it on something practical, like more lingji and medicinal herbs. If I can reach the middle period of this state soon, I can start practicing sorcery. Clothes and other stuff are all superficial. They're not necessary. Right, I should buy something for Uncle Li. He was suddenly reminded of what Sis Wu said earlier. As for a girlfriend. Tang Hao sighed. A silhouette appeared in his mind. It was a girl with a ponytail. She looked pure, cute and gentle, and when she laughed, 2 faint dimples appeared on her cheeks. This girl's name was Li Qiao. She was his first crush. Back in school, they were in a steady relationship, however, he was supplanted by someone else. That person was Zhang Tianhao, the son of the principal of Westridge First Middle School. Because of this incident, he was caught in a fight with Zhang Tianhao and was subsequently expelled from the school. The truth of the matter was that Zhang Tianhao had goaded him and even punched first, though unfortunately for Tang Hao, his opponent was the son of the school principal. Tang Hao was indignant, though there was nothing he could do. After leaving school and prematurely entering society, Tang Hao struggled to survive on the edge of poverty. He never thought about the matter of relationships. Now that Sis Wu mentioned it, the memories came back to him. Somehow, his thoughts wandered to Sis Xiangyi. Her beautiful face appeared in his mind. He got off his ride and went through the packages. His eyes focused on one particular package. House number 9. That's for Sis Xiangyi. Tang Hao was surprised at this coincidence. He gave her a call and found that she was in the house, then hastily drove over to house number 9. He rang the doorbell and the door was soon opened. A beautiful woman appeared from within.